Hi, everyone. Welcome to Extractions Minority Report. This is our very first episode of a limited time series, which we will be talking to just different community leaders in San Diego, different various topics that interest us in our group, and bringing that and presenting that to you guys on our social media, on YouTube, and which we will upload this video later on today. So we welcome you to our first episode. I'm Violet, and today we're interviewing Grim. Hi, Grim.
Hello, great to be
Hi.
here.
So, I want to just jump right into this interview and kind of discuss our working relationship, our friendship. So we've known each other for years, um, and we've known the members of our team for a few years as well. So I want to kind of start with that and kind of educate people who may not know anything about extraction, may not know anything about us, how we all come to be, how we got to where we are right now. So if you want to just start and jump into our history with XJL and start there, we'll talk about that.
Sure. So the XJL is the Extreme Justice League. It's a group that is part of the real life superhero. Oh my God, I can't even talk. Real life superhero community. Basically, people who make their own costumes and personality, and go out there and try to make the world a better place, either through uh, homeless outreach, through community watch, neighborhood patrols, basically just being a good neighbor to everyone that they can.
Hmm.
So our group, the Extreme Justice League, was started by Mr. Extreme. It's been about 15 years ago. He was formerly of the Guardian Angels. Um, and basically, we've been working in San Diego, kind of like hand in hand with the police, but really more or less just like independently, going out and trying to do what we can, whether it's being first responders whenever someone is too inebriated, or if we're just there to de-escalate a situation with people being, you know, drunk and wanting to fight, or just misunderstandings that are happening every day out on the streets. So yeah, I was with him for 9 years. I think we've known each other for what, like 6 years now or so, five or
Hmm.
6 years.
Yeah, about 6 years.
Um, so yeah, that's pretty much where that is. It's kind of just a whole bunch of people, from all walks of life that came together and decided that they want to make the community a better place.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned on the relationship with the police, and we'll definitely get there because I want to expand on that a little bit more later on. But what within the XJL, and what was your role in the group? What did you lead, or what did you do in that group?
So I my official role was the director of operations and senior patrol leader. Basically, I did most of the day-to-day operations, from scheduling the patrols to scheduling and coming up with training, um, fundraising, pretty much everything there is. Like, that's what had my hand in. I helped to establish the group as a nonprofit organization a few years back. Um, yeah, so I mean, I kind of did a whole lot of everything. Mostly the logistics and training is what I specialized in.
Okay, so you have a lot of experience just doing kind of being out on the street, working with communities and engaging in what I would call community policing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So knowing that history, thank you for that history about the XJL and kind of the beginning history of it. Where does the XJL stand now? What's happening there? Are you still part of the group? How is that?
So the XJL is definitely in a transition phase, I guess.
Hmm.
Impact has taken over as far as leading it. Mr. Extreme has retired. Same with a few other members in San Diego. So it's kind of, I'm not really sure who's leading the XJL in San Diego, but I mean, I don't really have any sort of beef with them. I just am not really a part of the group. In fact, there are members of X Faction that are still with the XJL. So I look forward to a working relationship with them, but I'm not a part of the group anymore.
Okay. And kind of going back to, you not being with them anymore, was there a catalyst that kind of made you leave the XJL? Was there something that happened that um, kind of made you come to that decision?
So, like, the struggle for justice for Black people has been going on way, way long, like, way before I was born or thought of. And it's still going on today. And I feel like the Extreme Justice League is in a position to take a stand for the people, like say, hey, this is not right. This is an injustice. And I feel like my repeated requests to do something had fallen on deaf ears within the leadership. Um, so I just felt like I needed to strike out and do something, like something on my own, I guess.
Okay. So that's a good segue into where we are now with the X Faction. So the X Faction was that thing that you decided to do kind of by yourself, right?
Right,
Um, to address issues of inequity and Black liberation, right?
right.
Okay. So what the name X Faction? How did that come to be, and what is the goal of our group? What is this? You know?
So how it actually came to be is kind of uh, an homage to X Force or X Factor in the comic books, basically like an offshoot of X Men, um, and also uh, a tribute to XJL because that's where we started from. But really, when I think about it, it's like the nerdiness in me comes out, and I just break it down. It's like X is a variable in mathematics, so uh, we are variables. We're just not uh, hetero cis white males. Everything other than that is pretty much who we are. So yeah, that's where the X is, and then F plus action equals faction. So F in action.
All right, I like it. Um, so you were just kind of talking about how our group is diverse. I would say
Right.
our group, we don't have a white majority in our group.
Correct.
Um, our group is a mix of veterans and BIPOC, people of color, and LGBT, community folks. So we are we are this kind of melting pot of just of what America should look like, right?
Right.
So what besides Black liberation, what are some other things that the X Faction other communities that the X Faction is trying to focus on or trying to impact?
I mean, really, every community that's oppressed and every community that would benefit from our voice. So recently, I've come to realize that there is discrimination in the deaf community, and I really would like to take actions in that and help out all differently abled people. Um, Also, with the like the Muslim ban. Um, it's unconstitutional and really just anything that you can look at and be like, hey, shit, like it may not apply to me, but that group is getting the raw end of the deal. Like we should do something. It's kind of where I feel like any member of this group could bring up the subject and be like, hey, this is going on and it sucks. Can we address it? And yes, we should. That's where I feel like it should go.
Okay. So it's very, very just anyone who's oppressed is kind of what I like to say is any oppressed group, this is Extraction is working to better your life, is working to make the world a better place for you.
I like the way you say that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would say. So, kind of shifting focus a little bit, I want to get into the the main reason that you started Extraction, the kind of the defining moment that pushed you into wanting to go off on your own and do Extraction, and that was for Black liberation, right?
Right.
So, speaking about Black liberation, what what does that mean to you?
Freedom. I mean, and it's going to be hard for me to describe because I've never seen it, to be
Mm,
honest. Like it's more than just not being beat. It's more than just um, having opportunities handed to you when your oppressor feels like you should have them. It's it's being an equal part of society. It's being a human being. Like it's having liberty and justice for all. Like that's what it is. I don't really know how I will achieve it, um, other than together. Like that's the only way I see possible. But what it looks like not being beaten by the police. It looks like um, giving a fair deal the same way as everyone else should be. Um, it looks like giving a hand when you need it. That's the way I see it.
yeah. Yeah, it you touched on a good point. It is hard to envision Black liberation in a world where we have never experienced Black liberation, right?
Right.
So, um, I do like how you put it and how you mentioned just being equal. You know, it's not about being better, it's just about being equal. Um, how how do you see the X faction fitting into Black liberation?
Um, being a voice, um, there's several issues that I've come to realize as to why there are so few Black voices um, out here, I guess. There's fear. There is, I mean, not just fear of the police, but fear of losing what they have, their jobs, their social status, like where they are, their comfort in life. Um, there's all of that. And then there's other people that are like, see, black people don't even care about Black Lives Matter. Like, there's hardly any black people out here. Like, newsflash, there's hardly any black people in America. Like, the population is like what, 12%? Like, yeah, but this is an important issue regardless. Like, we all should be fighting for this shit. So I don't know. Like I feel like it's something that just needs to be done or said. And so I also feel like with all of our allies in X faction, um, we can rally the troops, as it were. I guess get everyone on the same page so that we're all fighting for the same causes. And guess what? When it's time to fight for their cause, like we'll be there for that too, because we are one. We're one people. We are together.
That was beautifully stated. And I want to expand on San Diego, the San Diego movement. And you mentioned, you know, in San Diego or just in any movement, um, there's not a lot of Black people out there, you know, on the front lines doing doing the work in this movement. Um, how do you what are your thoughts on that? How is that how does that make you feel? Does that make you want to fight harder? Does it make you want to, I don't know, get everyone together and have a powwow? Like what does that, how does that make you feel?
Um, Part of me feels frustrated initially, but when I realize it, like if you think about it, there are many different groups in San Diego um, fighting for justice in one form or the other. Many of them have Black members. Do I see all of them out there all the time? No. But I do see a decent amount here or there at different events or protests. And it's partially because they protest differently. There are some groups that will work with the police to throw on their protests in the streets, their parades or whatever. Um, and then there are groups that do not and will not attend those events. There's not really a lot of cohesion, and I would really much like to bring that. I really would like to change that. I want all of us to be working together. So it's kind of it's kind of frustrating to not see many, but then I realize that it's just like anything else. Everyone's going to be guarded with something that they're not familiar with. So I I think it's time to rally the troops.
Okay, so do you see the X Faction playing a big role in rallying the troops?
Hopefully, I mean, a
Mm.
lot of it I think is just I feel like it's pride. Like no one really wants to reach out and say, "Hey, I like what you're doing. Can we work together? This is what I think about this. This is what I think about that." Instead, there's a lot of criticisms about how people do things, and not a lot of it is constructive. So I feel like a lot of time when people are communicating, they're pushing each other away, and the opposite is what needs to happen. So I feel like we have the capacity to um, I guess, kind of mitigate a lot of those problems because we know how to communicate pretty well with people.
Yeah, I and also I would even add to that our experience working together, and because we've known each other for, our group, we've known each other for years and we've worked together in a similar capacity, that also aids in being able to reach out and communicate effectively with different types of people.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
um, yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So, going back to the X Section, um, what has the X Section done towards Black liberation? What what things have happened, that the X Section has participated in or done?
It's mostly protests that we have participated in, and a lot of behind the scenes things like trying to mediate problems between other groups, um, de-escalating issues when there's infighting during protests, um, and training up on what would be a better solution on things. That's pretty much where we're currently at, finding a better way to do things and more efficiently.
Cool. We will definitely at the end of this discussion talk about our upcoming events and things that we're doing. Um, but we'll save that conversation for the end, towards the end of this interview. So, with Black liberation, there is this big component of police relations. How what do you feel needs to happen with the police as it stands?
I feel like that's a loaded question. So, as it's one, I think there needs to be a giant shift in the infrastructure of policing. Um, if you think about it, like just from a logistical or economic standpoint, like it is the vast majority of the city's budget. Um, why? Like I feel like the situations that people with guns should be dealing with are the situations where you need people with guns to show up. Like, not mental health crisis, not first aid, not traffic, nothing. Like, none of that requires someone with a gun. Um, so why are we sending people with guns to address all of these issues when that's not even what they're trained in? Like, so I feel like just that portion of it will eliminate so much of like the abuse by the police, like the ridiculous equipment, the militarization of the police, the everything that you could think of will be reduced by reducing the interactions police have with the community.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that being said, eventually I would love to move to a model where we aren't policing. Like, we don't have people who don't live in the community coming in and murdering people in the community and then being protected by their unions. Like, that shouldn't happen.
Mhm. So you touch on a good point, and I guess I have a bigger question. Do you think there can be Black liberation and police policing cooperatively in a community?
Do I think it's possible? Yes. But that would require the police to be on board with that. And they are not. Like, I'll be honest, like, I have been trying to meet with many police officers to discuss how to better police. It has become quite apparent that their intention is not to like learn how to be better police or de-escalate situations. Um, as long as they don't have to, like they have unions protecting them, they can impose their will on whoever. What would it benefit them? Like, in their eyes, nothing. It wouldn't benefit them at all. So I feel like that's not a conversation they're willing to even have.
And just to even add on to that point, just recently, a few days ago, the police banned the Blue Lives Matter mask, um, as an effort to fit in with the community. Um, so if they're just now doing that and just now realizing that that is an issue that affects, it's directly in opposition to Black Lives Matter, and they're just now coming to that thought, months after the movement started, almost a year after the movement started. Um, it goes back to your point where they are not, unless something happens from a higher level, they are not themselves interested in becoming better police for the community,
Yeah.
right? So going into that discussion, how you mentioned earlier in this conversation that the XJL, when you were a part of the XJL, there was police cooperation, right?
Yeah.
How how did that experience impact your belief about the police now?
So, all right. Like, one, I want to say that when I started with the Extreme Justice League, the interactions with the police were not positive in the slightest. They would stop us, like say, "Hey, take off your mask," sit on the curb, cuff us, point guns at us, like the whole nine. We're not armed, like never been armed. But I've had guns drawn on me by the cops more times than I care to count. Um, eventually, like with, I think it was probably media exposure, and I guess some of the campaigns that we went on, like the Chula Vista Groper, North Park, that dude that was setting the homeless people on fire, like that, we were actually putting in work. And so we were running across the cops. And then when they would talk to us, we would tell them exactly what we're about. Never once were we like, oh, this is silly or stupid. Like, none of that, because we are just doing what good people would be doing. It's always been encouraging. And then it came to a point where we had a good working relationship with them. We would see the same cops out there, bike cops, all the time in the gas lamp. They would be like, "Hey, can you help us block off this area because whatever happened, we need to tape it off." Like, we worked together well to make the community safer. And for me personally, like, I wanted to be there for most events, most situations, because I don't want the cops there. I don't want them being involved. Like, we don't need people with guns showing up to most of the things that happen downtown. So um, I feel like before we had a working relationship. Now I see how they are just treating everyday people like on the regular, and it's not humane. Like, it's you're not the good guys. Like, you, and the fact that they are definitely stifling dissent. What about that is honorable? Like, there's the fact that they don't have any desire to make any changes is terrifying. It's terrifying. Like, it should be terrifying to each and every one of them, but it's not. Like, they
Mm.
are fine with it. Um, and that should throw red flags for everyone.
Right,
But yeah, that's where
right,
we're at.
right. Okay. Yeah, I think also you have an interesting perspective as a black man, um, experiencing the police here in San Diego, and that having that dynamic also kind of changes your perspective. Um,
Yeah,
mhm. And as a black woman, it changes my perspective as well. It changes how I view them, um, how I view their power, um, and how I view them trying to stifle dissent. They are actively trying to stop people from doing what we're doing and going out there and protesting and standing up and using our First Amendment right. They are actively trying to stifle that. So um, it's very interesting to think about that.
yeah,
So going back to the XJL, XJL was a community policing, for better words, like community policing.
right.
Were there any situations when you were in the XJL that you guys did without the police intervening and turned out positively?
Oh yeah, like most of them. Most of the situations that uh, we had without the police turned out positively. Um, because I mean, really, any situation where it gets tense is just two people who aren't on the same page. If you insert someone who's trying to get them both on the same page, the odds are that it's going to work out better. Um, Obviously, there's a point where someone is not trying to be reasonable or rational, and at that point, you can't really help them. You can't really help them the way that they need to be helped. Um, but that's rare. I mean, you just have to know how to handle situations. And if you train on this, you will learn how to handle those situations. So, yeah, most of the situations that we've come across have turned out positively.
Hmm. Yeah. So I asked that question because it sounds like the black community would do better in a situation where there were community policing, or where there's a withdrawal of the traditional police and implementation of community efforts eh, to mitigate some of the present problems.
Right.
Yeah. So in this process, in this Black liberation, in this police relations, what do you see for San Diego? What are you looking for San Diego and this Black liberation?
What am I looking for?
What do you, yeah, what, or let me restate this question.
Okay.
What, what outcome do you want to see for San Diego?
Uh, okay. A united Black community um, that actually stands up to make a difference. I mean, it's great to say that you would like this or that is unfair. Um, but when it comes down to it, things need to change. And that is what I'm hopeful for, to find everyone who is willing to make a change and then organize and make that change. I mean, it sounds really simple when I say it, but I mean, it's not quite as simple in practice.
Definitely not. I think we've learned that as we've been going on. Um, so what is your next move within this greater movement? Like what is your next move? What is the X Faction's next move? What does that kind of look like?
Nice move. So,
Hmm.
um, more events is definitely like they're on the horizon. Um, but also working with other groups, because it would be silly to be like, hey, we need to like be united and refuse to like work with anyone else. So I'm probably gonna start doing a lot more of like reaching out to other groups. I know I'm spreading myself thin. Like I already work with a bunch of groups, but like I feel like this is an urgent matter. Like the unity is an urgent matter. The building of community is an urgent matter. So that's what I'm going to be working towards and what I'm hopeful for.
And that's a good segue into the X Faction's next things. Can you talk about some of the next things that the X Faction plans to do? Um, yeah.
So, what is it? What are we doing next? There's an action in City Heights on the 6th. Um,
The Quan Charles.
correct. Um, that's, let's see, I don't know the times or specifics, but I'll post that whenever.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, then, I mean, we're going to be meeting with a lot of other um, community leaders to try to build that community and see what's on the horizon for them and work with them. And basically, we'll plan from there because I feel like I feel like a lot of things are said to be community planned and then leave the community out of it. Um, I just personally feel like it's of dire importance to build a bond with the people that you are working for um, because that motivates you to work for them. So, yeah.
And when you say the community, are you talking about the Black community in this instance?
Yes, I am talking about the Black community. Um, however, like when I say like the Black community, like I mean people who are fighting for the Black community. Like if you are, if you're out there like doing whatever, like if you're at events, planning them, helping out, like even if you're just using your voice to raise awareness, like I would like everyone to be on the same page and know what we're fighting for and realize that we're fighting for each other. Like that's really the gist of it.
Yeah, beautifully stated, beautifully, beautiful conclusion to this interview that we had. And I thank you, Graham, for coming on and being the first interview in the series. So thank you for that.
Thanks for
Um,
interviewing me.
yeah, of course. And it's been my honor. I've always wanted to interview you. So there's more interviews on the way with different leaders and folks in the movement. Stay tuned on our Instagram, our Twitter. We're going to create a YouTube channel for all these interviews, but stay tuned for more of these, and just look out for more actions that we're having. Like Grim was stating, our Kwan Charles um, action will be in City Heights on the 6th at noon, and we will post that flyer later on today. And yeah, is there anything else you want to say, Grim, before we conclude?
Mm,
Okay, all right. All right, thank you everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Graham. Have a good
Bye.
one. Bye.